WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. Happy New Year to everybody out there celebrating. We're getting the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. We're going to be starting at G&A Coney Island Hot Dog this week with our friends at the Maryland Lottery and Window Nation, and starting the year. And I've got a whole category up at Baltimore Positive through 31 years of doing conversation with so many sports people, so many authors and books, and certainly in the new format. When the opportunity to have Mike Lupica on to talk this much sports and the great James Patterson on to talk this much of authorship and books, I just took the opportunity and said yes and yes. The book is out now. It is The House of Wolves. It is Murder Runs in the Family, and two great authors, one great columnist, and one former advertising man from my research. Welcome on, fellas. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. We're awake, man. Perfect.
Well, first things first, the marriage of the two of you. Mike, I'm very, very familiar with your work.
I've had the marriage thing, but if you're letting it out, okay.
We're going to couples counseling. We think we're working through some issues. We think it's going to be okay, but the marriage, it's a rocky marriage. Okay, it's a very rocky marriage.
I am shocked to see the two of you together. I thought you'd be on separate Zooms and separate rooms like Elton John and Bernie Taupin, but here you guys are together doing the tour on this. Give me the beginning of how the two of you meet to put this kind of a thing together.
Well, it started as all good things do in a bar, and we just got together talking a little sports, and then we talked about an idea maybe to do a kids book, and then we decided to do an adult book, and now we've done House of Wolves, which this month actually the two big books will be Prince Harry's book and then House of Wolves, but the thing of it is with House of Wolves, the royal family, the Wolf family, they're tough. The royal family, I mean, so Harry gets batted around a little bit and they can't talk to his dad. That's nothing compared to the Wolves. The Wolf family, I mean, that they're out to kill each other. Kill or be killed is their family motto.
Well, it did have a little bit when I saw it. I thought Puzo, I saw a little Godfather thing here. Mike, for you this is not, and I've done a little research on you, but I'm so familiar with sports reporters. I pulled you in before an Orioles-Yankees game in Baltimore 25 years ago to sit down with me for a couple minutes, and I'm very familiar with your work. But you've been writing in a non-sports, in a fiction way, for a long, long time, right? I mean, I would think for someone like you to be so prolific and being at games and being at TV and being that sports guy, that finding time to do this as a side gig back in the day, maybe it was a priority, but maybe not the first priority.
Yeah, no, Jim always says he doesn't work at writing, he plays at writing. And I feel the same way. And by the way, that's right, I have to do this. I really have no other skills. So if the writing thing goes south, but no, I was telling Jim today, I really started to make a mark in fiction, writing books for young readers. And I was telling him, my wife said after Travel Team became successful, honey, let's face it, you writing from inside the mind of a 12-year-old seems like pretty much a perfect fit as far as I could tell. And our lack of maturity is one of the things that bonds us. Yeah, it's one of the things.
We were on radio earlier today, and the guy said it was the best interview they've ever done in Kingston, New York. The the thing in House of Wolves, though, what Mike really, I did a couple books with President Clinton, and he brings a lot of authenticity to stuff about the presidency, and then Dolly Parton, and she obviously knows country and western, but Mike really knows sports. So the sports part of this book is incredibly authentic. All of this, the football scenes, the stuff about the owner. Somebody asked us on one of the shows, they said the mob is in here, and I said, "Well, are you talking about the NFL owners?"
That hits it home after having my press pass rescinded after 26 years, Mike. So the battle is real when it comes to how sports franchise. How did you take sports and wield it? Now you've got intrigue for me that there's a sports side to this novel.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've got newspapers in this book. We've got football in this book. And one of the themes of the book is if you have one of these 32 franchises, you will do anything, maybe even including kill to hold on to it. And if you really want one, you might be willing to kill to get one. And Jim's right. I mean, The mob would probably run the other way from NFL owners. They say, "Whoa, we no, thank you. No, we're going to get into building roads or bridges."
Well, the title is all about the Wolf football team, and well, in San Francisco, it's a made up team, but it feels like a real team, and it is the San Francisco Wolves. So that's what House of Wolves is, their stadium. So it's a big football book.
Are you a big? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say that with all of that, this is really a book about a powerful dysfunctional family. I mean, Jim keeps saying the Duttons in Yellowstone would run the other way if they ran into the Wolf brothers and Jenny Wolf. Yeah, they're saying, no, we want no part of them. And Jim's right. I mean, when we found out that Prince William had slugged Prince Harry, we're thinking, whoa, they're stealing our act. No, that's our stuff.
The royal family's nothing compared to the Wolves.
James Patterson is with us, as well as Mike Lupica. The book, The House of Wolves, murder runs in the family, crime, palace intrigue, sports, great authors. For you, Mr. Patterson, a big sports fan? Literally?
Yeah. Yeah. No, in my house, my wife is a 4-time All-American swimmer, and she's even worse than me. She went to Wisconsin, so the Badgers have a new football coach, and and that's Fickle. I mean, I think he's staying at our house now, Coach Fickle. It's insanity.
Mike, with all the content that you produce and have produced on a daily basis, keeping up with all the sports teams in New York, national affairs, your national work, radio, things that you've done through your career, how much time do you have? Did you always have a book, a non-sports related thing for pleasure at your bedside that you read, or on your Kindle, or however you consume things? Because that's certainly something that, me being someone who produces content, that's gotten away from me. I do not do a lot of literally fiction reading. I stick to sort of bios, and if I'm going to read a book, it's not fiction. Were you a big fiction reader?
Oh yeah, no. I always wanted to write a newspaper column and write books. That I had no big career plan other than that. Television was just an accident.
What's the big bookstore in Baltimore? What's a hot bookstore? Well, you got Barnes and Noble there, right? Sure.
Yeah, well, we got those everywhere, right? Gina Schock just wrote a book.
Listening, whatever. You head over to Barnes and Noble, and you just tell them this is where you heard about the book.
I want to tell you a story, because I've written 2 books on the Ravens. They've won 2 championships, Purple Rain 1, Purple Rain 2, self-published the second time. And so this is really a sad story, because it was 10 years ago, like sort of this month, that it all happened. So I write this book. I went to an Ocean City convention with 15,000 rabid Raven fans 3 months after they won the Super Bowl. I had a beautiful book, sort of looked not as beautiful as your book, of course, and I had it at this fan convention, and fan after fan walked by me, and in my best Baltimore accent, I'll say, "Ew, that book ain't got no pictures. Oh man, that book's got a lot of words." And I undersold tremendously what I thought. I thought it's a great story. I got inside stuff. Harbaugh sat with me. Bisciotti sat with me. I spent 4 days with Flacco. Great stories. And people had stopped reading. And as a writer, as a journalist, as a newspaper reporter, it broke my heart. This was 10 years ago. Then Trump got elected. We can talk about that. But over the last 10 years of keeping the spirit of this alive, and Mr. Patterson, I know you put a lot of effort into this too, with kids reading and literacy, and why reading a book isn't as popular as maybe it was when we were young people.
No, but it's still pretty popular. I'm doing okay.
But you always want recruiting people those people that say, I ain't read a book in however long. We had a president that bragged about not reading a book as well.
Oh, Donald's a big fan. Donald's a big fan. He's a big reader of our books. He read House of Wolves. You
do fiction. You do fiction well. You really do.
You betcha.
No, but getting young people to read and getting
that's a whole other thing. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. Yeah.
Well, getting someone that hasn't read a book in 5 years to buy this book and say, this is the one I'm going to dive into.
I hear over and over and over and over and over again, thank you so much. You got my husband reading again. And I guarantee you, I don't care who you are, if you read any books, you will enjoy. You'll get a kick out of this. In fact, I will say this: if you read this book and you don't like it, I'll go to your house. I'll sit on the front porch and I'll eat this book page by page. That's how sure I am with this book.
Not your house, Nestor, because I remember when you accosted me at that game that time, and I mean, I don't make a big thing out of it. I did get a restraining order.
Accosted feels a little.
Yeah, no, I'm only. He knows I'm only kidding. You know, I'm only kidding. You know,
Mike, you're a big kidder. I expected to get kicked when you came on. James Patterson, Mike Lupica here. The book is A House of Wolves. I hope everybody goes out and checks it out. And while I have writers here, and I aspire to be a decent one myself all these years, Mike, what have you learned from working with Jim about on this, as far as the art of what he does as well as anybody in the world?
Well, once an interview, I have to embarrass him by being serious because he doesn't expect that from me. It's like getting a master class in storytelling, working with this man. The story better move. He is the sworn enemy of backstory. You just keep pushing the story, and one of Jim's big things is movie moments. And the more movie moments you can produce in a book, the better. And if you read our books, you could see so many chapters end with if not a cliffhanger, it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And that's the beauty of House of Wolves. That I guarantee you, once you start this book, you won't start, because it's a family story, it's a football story, it's a newspaper story, but it's also a murder mystery.
And this working together is no big. Almost every television show, every movie you watch, it's usually a couple of writers. So it's not like some weird thing. And Mike is, with all due respect to President Clinton and Dolly Parton and whatever, Mike is the best writer I've worked with. Dolly writes better lyrics, I must say. But yeah.
Gee, I'm never going to disparage Dolly here after New Year's Eve, man. That was just kudos, standing ovation for all that. Jim, what's a movie moment? Mike referred to that. What if I were to write with you and said movie moment? What am I looking for in a movie moment?
You can make a big living if you can write beginnings and ends to chapters. If you write middles, man, you win the Nobel Prize. Beginnings, middles, and ends. I'll give you an example. We don't talk about this much, and thank God the Bills kid is fine. But in our book, and it's actually eerie, a guy dies on the field. And at first we were like, oh my God, this is messed up. And fortunately, that young guy is okay. But I mean, there's a movie moment in the book.
You guys mentioned
one of the players dies on the field.
You mentioned ownership and leadership and integrity.
And ownership and leadership together in the same sentence.
Mike, you covered this in a serious nature forever. I mean, you're the guy Tuesday morning last week when this incident happened that would be saying who did what, why, all of that. When you're putting a project together like this, and I'm just thinking about when you're writing, because I read Leibovich's book, after being embedded. Probably the last sports book I've read was actually that one. And I thought it was a wonderful book because it really did sort of peel back. You got a lot of latitude on what you could do in writing about sports as far as what they've already got. I'm 38 miles from Washington, D.C., and their franchise at this point as well. There's not much that wouldn't be believable, right? Like to say a player would die on the field, that's when you're writing this is fully believable.
No, the reason that scene is in our book is that one player's ever died on the field, Chuck Hughes of the Detroit Lions in the 1970s. My wife, as a little girl, was at that game. Her father, they lived about an hour away in Ohio, and it was a big thing. And he took her to her first NFL game, and they found out on the way home that Chuck Hughes had died of a heart attack during the game, because all they saw was him get carted off. And when we were putting the book up on its legs, I said, we should have a scene like that in this book. And then last Monday night, when we saw that play out, there's a couple of paragraphs in our book that describe exactly what you saw. Including the game being stopped at the time. It was a little spooky. It was really spooky.
It's got a lot of funny dialogue in it, but it does have that authenticity, which is what I think a lot of people look for in books. And Mike brings that because he's seen it all. And we both of us know a lot of owners. I know a lot of owners because I live in Florida and I'm rich, and they're all down. It's true.
So you'll do nothing to disparage the union there?
The unions?
The union of owners.
Oh, Yeah, there are a couple of them that I think need a little
He
work.
wrote this book. How worried is he about hurting their feelings?
But at least you can tell him it's fiction. Leibovich couldn't tell him that.
From the NFL should love this book because it brings women in. Totally. Women love this. Both of our wives, who are tough readers, and they both said it's the best book that either one of us has ever done, either separate, by ourselves or with one another. It really is a fun read. It's a fun read, I guarantee you.
And even we couldn't make up Daniel Snyder. I mean, we're trying to keep up with the bizarreness of NFL owners, and then you got this guy who owns the Washington Commanders that they're going to run out of the league on a rail.
Well, maybe. Not on a rail. If it was on a rail, he'd already been run out. Mike Lupica is here. James Patterson is here. The book is out. So I must ask this. Was this written to be a movie? Is there a screenplay already out there, Jim?
Not yet. The rights are still available. So anybody that's watching, just call creative artists and say, I got big money. And, there's a lot of interest in it, but we haven't sold it yet.
But Mike, you envision this maybe even on the writing aspect. You see it in a cinematic way. You see this come to life as you write it, right? In that way?
Jim will say, who do you really see as Jenny Wolfe? And we always say Margot Robbie and Charlize Theron.
Just to pick a couple.
Just to pick a couple. No, it's very cinematic because, again, it has football, but it's really not a football book. It's a dysfunctional family book with a great lead character in Jenny Wolfe.
And NFL it's all good. Women are going to love this, and they're going to love the NFL because of this book. Absolutely.
Does it have a commissioner?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to fantasize what a Lupica commissioner would look like in a dysfunctional league, not a functional league,
Not a fan of it.
Here's the challenge, Nestor. I know you don't read a lot of fiction. Read this book, read 50 pages, and then you can tell the audience tomorrow what you thought.
The only time I would read a book like this would be exactly where you would want me to read it, on a beach, at a pool, away from it all, because I like to get away from it all. And I might just do that. Mike, I want to ask you.
You have a bathroom in your house?
I don't spend a lot of time there anymore. You know what I mean? I try to get in and out. That's a newspaper thing,
I'm trying to give you a way to read fiction just to get you into it,
Don't get me started. I used to read guys like Lupica on the throne, as my dad would say. So you know what I mean? I'm no stranger to the newspaper side. Mike, for you with the owners in seriousness of you mentioned Daniel Snyder. I'm assuming there's some little Jerry Jones sort of thing going on as well. I mean, all of these. I've been to the owners meetings the last 15 years. Now that I've been thrown out of the media, I guess I won't. But I've been around these guys. For you, what's the most egregious thing you feel like with the league? I mean, if you had a Howard Cosell or a Bob Costas moment with CTE or what happened last week, that is there a jump the shark moment for the league, or is it really so gladiatory that we're all going to love it?
NFL should be praised for what happened last week. And we've said, if you went down in a hospital, that same guy, his chances were better going down in that stadium than they would be if he went down in a hospital.
Nestor, I wrote a column last Sunday. Jim's entirely right, because it came out of a conversation we have. We know all the things that are wrong with the NFL. We do. Everybody knows them. People in outer space know how slow they were on CTE, all that stuff. But what they did do a week ago last Monday was they saved that kid's life. And Jim's right. He could have fallen down in the lobby of a hotel and not gotten a hospital and not gotten treatment as well as he got in the moment, where every second could have cost him his life. That team of medical professionals, that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in sports.
Well, there you go. So there's the good side. The dark side, however, in trying to delve into that for the book, is there something that worries you about the league?
No, they just lose touch with their fans. They forget that they are caretakers of a public trust if they own these teams. I went to college with John Merrill, and even the Giants lost their way for years. I did, Boston College, wow. Yeah. And the Giants won 2 Super Bowls and then lost their way. And then they finally found their way back to the right coach, and now they're back in the playoffs.
Well, here we have Lamar Jackson and money and injuries, and we have our own purple intrigue around here. Good luck with the book. I hope it turns into a movie. I hope that you move into a better neighborhood, Jim and Mike, that you can join him at some point. The book is A House of Wolves. Murder Runs in the Family, Football, Palace Intrigue, two great writers. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to have both of you on. And please come back when you write part 2.
All right.
Good
Thank
to talk to you again, Nestor.
Thank you very much. Mike Lupica, honored sports writer. I spent many a Sunday morning with him and Ryan and our dear friend from Baltimore, John Saunders, amongst many other friends, and the all-timers at ESPN on Sunday mornings, and the sports reporters, as well as James Patterson. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking books and novels and fun and sports and BaltimorePositive.com. Stay with us.